Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Big diplomatic win for India. Qatari court reduces death sentence of former Navy personnel. US allies reluctant on Red Sea alliance. EU signals support, but Italy and Spain appear to distance themselves from task force. India and Russia sign protocol on consultations for next 4 years. Russian President Vladimir Putin invites Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Russia. Amid legal tussles over his eligibility, former US President Donald Trump secures a place on Michigan's 2024 presidential primary ballot. The Court of Appeal of Qatar has commuted a death sentence of 8 Indians in the Dahra Global case. So while the detailed judgment is awaited, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs is in touch with the family and legal team on the matter. India and Russia have signed a protocol on consultations for the period of next 4 years to make progress in economic cooperation, energy, trade connectivity, military technical cooperation and people-to-people exchanges. The protocol was signed during External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's official visit to Russia. Dr. Jaishankar held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Wednesday.
With an aim to take the Russia-India partnership to new heights, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Wednesday. During the meeting, President Putin invited India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Russia, saying it will give both countries an opportunity to discuss all current issues and also explore the scope of future bilateral ties.
We will be glad to see our friend Mr. Prime Minister Modi in Russia. We will be able to discuss all current issues and talk about the prospects for the development of Russian-Indian relations. We have a lot of work to do, so I ask you to convey to him my best wishes and please pass on our invitation. We are waiting for him in Russia.
As soon as the meeting began, the Russian president highlighted Prime Minister Narendra Modi's willingness to do his best to resolve the Ukraine crisis peacefully.
We know the position of Prime Minister Modi and we have spoken about this more than once. His position regarding his attitude towards complex processes, including flashpoint areas and the situation in Ukraine.
In his remarks, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar conveyed the warm greetings of Prime Minister Modi and handed over a personal message to President Putin.
First of all, please allow me to convey the personal greetings of Prime Minister Modi. He has also, through me, sent a letter to you, a letter expressing his thoughts about the state of our cooperation and the progress that we have made in recent days, and I will have the honor to give you the letter. Certainly, Mr. President, he looks forward to visiting Russia next year.
External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, who is on a 5-day visit to Russia, also had a comprehensive and a productive meeting with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, on Wednesday. As strategic partners, discussions were also held on international situations and contemporary issues, including defense partnerships. With Anita Raj, Amit Mukherjee for DD India.
The U.S. government on Wednesday released $250 million in military assistance for Ukraine. The final aid package of 2023 includes air defense munitions, ammunition for high-mobility artillery rocket systems, and more than 15 million rounds of small-arm ammunition. It is the last tranche of aid that the White House can provide without further approval from Congress, where Republicans have been blocking new assistance. They are putting pressure on the Biden administration to crack down on migration across the southern border in exchange for support for Ukraine aid. Congress has approved more than $110 billion for Ukraine since the beginning of the war with Russia conflict, but none has passed since the Republicans took control of the House of Representatives. Moving on, Israel is expanding its ground offensive into Gaza after issuing a warning that the war with Hamas will last for months. Heavy fighting is also continuing in the southern city of Khan Yunis. Israeli military spokesman Daniel Hagari said troops were working around Al-Bureij and Khan Yunis, which it described was a terror base for Hamas.
In the south, we are working in several areas of Gaza. One is called Al-Bureij. It is an area in the central refugee camps. We are on the third day of attack there, and we are killing many terrorists and destroying terror infrastructure. The second is Khan Yunis in the southern strip, a central terror base of Hamas. There we have expanded our activity, and today we have added another brigade, and we are continuing to act there with the use of new military tactics above the ground and underneath.
Amidst the ongoing conflict, fighting between the Israeli army and Hezbollah is also intensifying. The IDF released videos of top military commanders conducting assessments and approving plans for its northern command. The videos also show airstrikes on Hezbollah targets along the Israel-Lebanon border. Israel has blamed Hamas and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for preventing humanitarian aid from reaching people in Gaza.
Unfortunately, to date, the UN aid mechanism in Gaza has been woefully unsuccessful because it goes through UNRWA. Aid simply isn't reaching the people who need it because Hamas hijacks it and UNRWA covers up for it.
Now, a week after the US launched a maritime force to respond to Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, many partners are distancing themselves from the effort. President Joe Biden intended to establish a firm international response to attacks on ships that have affected global shipping. Italy's Navy said it would send a ship to the region, but not as part of the US operation. France says its ships will also remain under its command. The Pentagon calls the force to a defensive coalition of more than 20 nations since the attacks began. Several shipping companies have rerouted cargo to the longer journey around Africa. Former US President Donald Trump has secured his place on the Michigan state ballot for the 2024 presidential primary. On Wednesday, the Michigan Supreme Court blocked an appeal over a lower court's ruling that Donald Trump should be permitted to run for president in the state. This ruling is in contrast with that of the Colorado Supreme Court, which earlier this month decided to remove Trump from its state primary ballot for engaging in insurrection. Republicans in Colorado have appealed to the US Supreme Court over the ruling. US. DD India's Benji Hai reports.
This caravan of migrants and asylum seekers, the latest of an increasingly common phenomenon, is still hundreds of kilometres from the US-Mexico border, but it's already causing a major political headache for the Biden administration. Antony Blinken and his delegation of Homeland Security officials have this week been asking their Mexican counterparts to help stem the flow of people from Central and South American nations travelling to the United States by, for example, controlling transport routes or providing incentives for them not to journey further north.
We don't need to go back to our country if we had nothing there. If we had, we wouldn't be migrating and we wouldn't be invading a place that doesn't belong to us. But we want help. We want an education for our children. That's all we ask for as human beings.
The White House is also requesting lawmakers here approve a financial package that includes extra funding for border security. Yet that remains stalled in Congress. No negotiations are scheduled until the new year. Mexico's president says the US government should offer more support to Latin America instead of, in his words, putting up barriers and building walls.
The importance of reopening borders crossing is a priority for us. We are talking about the economy part as well as the structural causes by migration. We are very interested in addressing the causes because people come because of poverty, inequality, violence, family reunification, and we want to address their problem in the countries of origin.
The migration issue, he added, is only going to intensify and could well be top of the agenda during the election campaign stateside in 2024. Now, illegal immigration has been a consistent vulnerability for President Joe Biden, who promised on his first day in office to, quote, restore humanity and American values to the immigration system, following his predecessor Donald Trump's policies designed to restrict arrivals. Trump, running for the Oval Office again, won the presidency in 2016 with a pledge to build a wall on the Mexican border, claiming rapists were being sent across it. He's recently faced criticism for saying that immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country and are coming from mental institutions. But he denies claims that his rhetoric mimics that used by the Nazis. Benji Haya in Washington, reporting for DD India.
New York City's Mayor Eric Adams on Wednesday announced an executive order requiring charter bus companies carrying migrants to give a 32-hour notice before arriving in the city. The announcement came during a press conference with Chicago and Denver mayor, who demanded more federal support for the influx of migrants into their cities. Adams said if any buses were found in violation of the rules could be impounded and the bus companies will be charged with misdemeanor.
I'm announcing an executive order requiring charter buses transporting migrants, those often contracted by the state of Texas, to provide 32-hour notice in advance of their arrival into New York City. To make sure we have sufficient staffing, we are also requiring that these charter buses arrive only between 8:30 a.m. and 12 p.m. Monday through Friday, and to only drop off passengers at one spot unless directed otherwise by New York City Emergency Management.
In the face of worldwide struggles with severe weather conditions and erratic storms, the significance of India's meteorological department has grown exponentially. Its pivotal role extends beyond providing timely local updates to actively assisting other nations in dealing with these challenges. Jessica Taneja has the details.
Seated at his office desk, Dr. Mrityunjay Mahapatra, the Director General of India's Met Department, diligently oversees weather forecasts, warnings and advisories. With the IMD's pivotal role in predicting natural disasters like cyclones, Dr. Mahapatra plays a crucial part in coordinating with disaster management authorities, not only within India, but also in neighboring countries. In May of this year, the Indian Met Department's Cyclone Mocha forecast played a crucial role in prompting countries such as Bangladesh and Myanmar to heighten their Army, Navy and Coast Guard readiness, anticipating potential impact.
The red line is the forecast track of the cyclone Mocha, which crossed Myanmar and adjoining Bangladesh coast in the summer season of 2023. Its forecast was provided 5 days in advance, as you can see from the red line. As we predicted, the black line, which is the actual track of the cyclone, shows that the forecast was highly accurate. So we are expecting fog over Odisha, is it?
Not only this, the IMD also collaborates with regional groups of countries like SAARC and BIMSTEC, sharing critical climate hazard information and early warnings. Moreover, through the Global Coalition of Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, in partnership with the IMD, initiatives are underway to develop resilient solutions for housing, communication, power supply and transportation for worldwide application, both within India and beyond. In its 150 years of existence, the Indian Met Department has come a long way since. From mere recording temperatures and air pressure to being a well-equipped meteorological center for entire South Asia. In fact, the national weather forecasting systems here not only help predict erratic weather conditions, but also storms and cyclones that could affect a lot of people. And this helps the authorities plan things a little better in advance. Despite continuous upgrades to ground-based weather stations and radars, Dr. Mrityunjay acknowledges occasional challenges faced by the IMD, particularly due to the absence of long-term climatological data from the Himalayan regions and the oceans.
Especially the Himalayan region or data sparse region. We take the observation with the help of the satellites every half an hour. But the hill peaks are so dense that you cannot capture the mesoscale or the microscale extremely weather events like thunderstorms or cloudbursts, etc., with the help of the satellite. You need, therefore, very dense network of the radar and automated weather stations, etc. Towards this direction, over the western Himalayan region, we have put off 10 radars so far. And in northeastern Himalaya region, we are going to put off 8 radars.
Moving forward, the Met Department aims to strengthen the observational network on land and the seas, improve the data inflow, and also eventually use it to run weather and climate models for deriving climate predictions. And this transformative process is expected to unfold gradually. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
All right, and still to come on this edition of DD India Live. China says it won't turn a blind eye to Philippines' repeated provocations as US-Philippines top diplomats discuss South China Sea tensions. Flooding hits Thailand's Patani as runoffs from Narathaivat and Yala affect 8 districts as disaster zones impacting over 25,000 people. 6th batch of Kashi Tamil Sangamam arrives in Varanasi. Stay with us to know more.
Why are students around the world struggling with mental health issues? We tell you why on Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Now, China said that it will not turn a blind eye to repeated provocations and harassment by Philippines as tensions rise between the two countries over South China Sea. China's Defense Ministry spokesperson Wu Qin said that China Coast Guard has taken various enforcement measures. He also called the accusations made by Philippines purely false hype and said that Philippines insisted on sending vessels to intrude into waters. Earlier this month, Philippines accused China of repeatedly firing water cannons at its resupply posts. On Wednesday, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Philippines Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo discussed ongoing tensions between China and Philippines. The New York Times has filed a lawsuit against OpenAI and Microsoft on claims of copyright infringement. The newspaper claims its articles were used to train artificial intelligence programs. DD India's William Denslow reports from New York.
According to reports, the New York Times held talks earlier this year with Microsoft and OpenAI to try and find an amicable resolution to this dispute. Ultimately, that wasn't proven to be successful. The New York Times moving forward with a lawsuit that's been filed in Manhattan's Federal District Court. The newspaper claims that the two tech firms created products that are taking audiences away from the newspaper. It also alleges that millions of New York Times articles have been used by the tech firms to train automated chatbots. OpenAI claims that the use of articles is protected under fair use. According to investors, OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, is worth over $80 billion. Microsoft, for its part, has invested $13 billion into the AI tech company. Now, this is the first time that a major media company has filed a lawsuit of this kind, but isn't the first time that some people have filed lawsuits with regard to the use of intellectual property and artificial intelligence. A number of authors, as well as comedian Sarah Silverman, have filed lawsuits against AI companies because of the use of their intellectual property, they claim, in the training of artificial intelligence. Now, according to some analysts, these kind of disputes, because this technology is just so new, could wind up being fought in the US Supreme Court. This lawsuit filed by the New York Times doesn't specify how much they're seeking from these tech giants, but according to the lawsuit, the New York Times is seeking billions of dollars in damages. William Denslow in New York, reporting for DD India.
Despite producing 2.7 million tons of sugar yearly, Egypt's demand has surpassed 3.5 million tons, creating a sugar shortage coupled with inflation and geopolitical tensions. Factors like the Israel-Hamas conflict and inflation have led to a weakened currency and disrupted supply chains, causing sugar prices to surge. Egypt is taking various measures to stabilize prices, including increase in supply for low-income groups and imposing a cap on sugar prices. In mid-December, the government announced an extension of the sugar export ban until the end of March next year. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez announced on Wednesday that his government will be extending its subsidies and discounts during 2024 in an effort to curb inflation and the cost of living. Like other European countries, Spain has grappled with a cost of living crisis due to COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. Pensions will be raised by 3.8% in 2024, broadening of subsidies for minors and young people on public transport to all regular users, and reduction of VAT for essential items such as fruit and vegetables, among others. Tickets on intercity bus lines will continue to be subsidized by 50%, while some measures to be phased out. The tax rate on electricity will rise to 10% next year. At least 6 people were arrested during a protest against the government in Buenos Aires on Wednesday. Earlier on Thursday, workers' organizations marched in front of the Justice Palace to protest against 300 economic reforms proposed by President Javier Milei last week. The demonstrators claimed that the reforms went against their fundamental social rights and earned wages. Presidency spokesperson Manuel Adorni said that more measures have been sent to Congress that includes reforms in tax, labor, criminal, energy and electoral matters. Time for some more world news. Pakistan's Election Commission on Thursday accepted former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's nomination for the 2024 elections, weeks after a court overturned 2 graft convictions. The reason remains unclear how his nomination was accepted, but Sharif still needs the removal of a life ban on holding any public office to qualify. A hearing on that ban will be held in January. The Eiffel Tower was closed to the public after staff went on strike on the 100th anniversary of its creator, Gustave Eiffel. The employees were protesting about the way the tower was being managed, though the tourist can still access the glass-enclosed esplanade beneath the tower, but access to the 984-foot landmark itself is closed until further notice. One of the world's most visited sites, the Eiffel Tower is generally open 365 days a year, though it seeks occasional strikes. European Union pays tribute to the former European Commission President Jacques Delors on Thursday. The EU flags were flown at half-mast outside the European Commission headquarters in Brussels. Delors was a founding father of the European Union's historic single currency project. He died on Wednesday at the age of 98. Over 25,000 people have been affected due to flooding in Thailand's Pattani. Runoffs from Ruso district flowed into Pattani province, worsening the flooding in an already inundated district. According to the Public Health Ministry, 2 emergency health units have been set up in the provinces to provide treatment to flood victims. India's Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra is a journey being undertaken across the country. The aim is to attain saturation of flagship schemes of the government by ensuring that the benefits of these schemes reach all targeted beneficiaries in a time-bound manner. The Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra has reached the districts of Udhampur in the northern Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. The Yatra was welcomed with tremendous enthusiasm and active participation from the local communities. The IEC vans at the center of the Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra has emerged as a dynamic tool as it continues to traverse various parts of the districts and disseminate essential information on central government schemes. On this occasion, several beneficiaries shared their progressive stories under the segment Meri Kahani, Meri Zubani. As the second edition of Kashi Tamil Sangamam is underway in the northern Indian city of Varanasi, the 6th batch of Kashi Tamil Sangamam has arrived in the city. The group visited Kashi Vishwanath temple and offered prayers to Lord Vishwanath. DD India's Mihir Makhuri gets us more.
The 6th batch of the Kashi Tamil Sangamam reached the North Indian city of Varanasi to take part in the 2nd edition of the event. The group was greeted with flowers at Kashi's Sri Kashi Vishwanath temple.
Kashi Tamil Sangam 2.0 The way they treated us is wonderful. And from Chennai, we came here on the bus travel of 2 days. The food they have given us wonderful, and all the arrangements made by the government was amazing.
Each member was honoured with an Anga Vastram or a traditional stall at the Shankaracharya Chowk.
हमारे जितने भी वहाँ से अतिथि लोग आए हुए हैं, जब वो विश्वनाथ धाम के द्वार में आते हैं तो उनके फूलों के द्वारा, वृष्टि के द्वारा, फूल के जो है फूलों के द्वारा उनका भव्य स्वागत, उसके बाद अंदर प्रवेश के पश्चात बाबा विश्वनाथ जी का दर्शन, सभी के हाथ में गंगा जल दिया जाता है जिसके द्वारा वो भगवान विश्वनाथ जी का अभिषेक करते हैं। इसके पश्चात जो हमारा विश्वनाथ धाम का शंकराचार्य चौक है, हमारे जितने भी अतिथि वहाँ से आ रहे हैं वहाँ पर बैठ के उनको तमिल भाषा में जो हमारा काशी की विशेषता है, विश्वनाथ जी की विशेषता है, माँ गंगा की विशेषता है, पूर्व में हमारा जो विश्वनाथ देवालय कैसा था और वर्तमान में कैसा है, इसका पूरा विवरण तमिल भाषा में हम देते हैं यहाँ।
In Varanasi, as part of the ongoing program of Kashi Tamil Sangamam 2.0, stalls showcasing various products from Tamil Nadu in South India have also been set up. The main aim of the Kashi Tamil Sangamam is to bring the cultural traditions of the North and South India closer, to enhance the understanding of the country's shared heritage and to strengthen the relationships between the people of these regions. With the inauguration of the Kashi Vishwanath Dham and the Kashi Tamil Sangamam, a large number of tourists are arriving in Kashi, which is also providing employment opportunities to the locals. Mihir Makhuri's report, DD India.
On to the Boxing Day Test match between Australia versus Pakistan now. Australia took a lead of 241 runs in their second innings, having scored 187 runs for the loss of 6 wickets at stumps on day 3 at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Steve Smith scored 50 runs while Mitchell Marsh smashed 96 runs. Earlier, Pat Cummins took 5 wickets while Nathan Lyon took 4 to dismiss Pakistan for 264 in their first innings. Pakistan, resuming their first innings at 194 for 6, could only add 70 runs on day 3. Rizwan departed after contributing 42 runs while Jamal remained unbeaten with a valuable 33. Australia had scored 318 runs in their first innings. Carlos Alcaraz came back from a set down to beat world number 1 Novak Djokovic 4-6, 6-4, 6-4 in a hard-fought exhibition match in Riyadh. Alcaraz started strong by breaking the Serb's serve in the opening game. However, Djokovic answered back with 2 breaks of his own to take the opening set 6-4. The Spaniard then started the second set by breaking Djokovic once again. He then held his serve to secure the second set 6-4 to force a deciding third set. The third set was an epic back-and-forth battle with Alcaraz getting a break in the third game only to see Djokovic level once again in the sixth. A string of errors by Djokovic allowed the world number 2 to take the upper hand back when he secured the deciding break to go up 5-4. The match is a preview to January's Australian Open as the world's top 2 players get into gear for the 2024 season.
He's one of the leaders of the sport today, and definitely he's going to carry this game in the future years to come. In the next 10-15 years, we're going to see a lot of him. So tennis is in good hands.
As you said, I grew up watching him winning the big tournaments, and I always dream about being in this position, playing against him face to face, and I'm really happy to be able to do that, and hopefully keep going. As I said many times, and himself said as well, he seems like he's 20, so we are gonna set the court more than once. So. It's amazing.
The Indian women's cricket team is currently facing Australia in the first one-day international match in Mumbai, and India posted a 283-run target for Australia after the end of their 50 overs. Rogrid's top scored for India with 82 runs. Late strike from Pooja then propelled India to 282 runs. Yastika Bhatia scored 49 runs while Richa Ghosh and Deepti Sharma both scored 21 runs each. For Australia, Ashley Gardner and Georgia Wareham took 2 wickets apiece. On to the ongoing first test match between India and South Africa at Centurion now. South Africa have taken a huge lead of 163 runs against India after the end of their first innings. India dismissed South Africa at 408 runs. In the first session on day 3, Shardul Thakur dismissed Dean Algar at the score of 185. Algar, who's playing his farewell series, smashed 28 fours in his innings. All right, and that's all in this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.